While I was still stuck in my reading slump and on the worst day of my period, I decided to torture myself a little in the hopes that it will get me back into the flow of reading. So I decided to pick up A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I really didn't know what to expect from this book besides pain. That's what I've heard all over social media, so I went in completely blind and hoping for the best, lol. The book started off with introducing the four main characters, Jude, Willem, JB and Malcolm, and showing us their life and their backstory. And for the first 100 pages or so, I was like, this isn't so bad. I can't imagine that it's going to get that bad. But yeah, I had no idea what's coming. I've read around 86 pages of A Little Life, and yeah, so far we've gotten to know the characters and their whole story and the whole constellation, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm a little scared of what's coming, to be honest, because I've heard so much. I've heard that it's gonna be so traumatizing and so graphic. There has been a little scene of Jude hurting himself. Obviously I kind of found it hard to read, but I've also found it really relatable because I've had some issues with hurting myself in the past as well. Not anymore, but if you're struggling with that and if you find stuff like this hard to read, or if you're struggling with your mental health in general, definitely be aware of all the trigger warnings of this book. I think it can really get to you if you're not prepared for it. And yeah, getting to know Jude and the other guys on such a deep level was so interesting. It felt very honest and so realistic. It literally felt like those characters were coming off the page. I was super hooked, and the writing style felt very matter-of-factly, which was refreshing because I tend to read a lot of those flowery writing styles. After a few hours of reading, I decided to create an atmospheric evening for myself and download the audiobook of A Little Life. My mental health wasn't at a good point during that time, and I thought I could process those tough parts a bit better while listening to it and playing a cozy game like The Sims. And yeah, it was the best time because I could really switch off while listening to this book. The narrator of the audiobook was also just fantastic and really brought the story to life. I'm on page 364 of A Little Life, and this scene really shocked me. I don't understand how Jude can always get onto those people who are bad for him, who don't understand him, who are not helping him in any way but are making things so much worse. Yes, he has his friends. Outside of his friends, how does he always manage to get the people that just don't accept him? I feel like so far this book had a lot of sad scenes, but because I've been dealing with mental illness my whole life, and I've met a lot of people who also struggle with mental illness, I understand that bad things happen to him, and that's why he's a very flawed person, and I really feel with him, but I've not been super heartbroken or super shocked by anything yet. What happened here on page 364? I'm just saying one name, so maybe if you've read it you know what I'm talking about, because I don't want to spoil anyone, but it's about Caleb, and I'm so frustrated, honestly. And yeah, and I really hope something, anything good will happen to Jude, but I know that a lot of people say that this book is so sad, so I'm guessing probably not. I still hope he kind of has any kind of light in any way, because yeah, Willem is his light, but Willem is not there a lot, so I'm just really hoping that anything good happens to him and he can find a way to grow, and he can find a way to reflect himself in the right way. That's just what I really hope for Jude. Can I just read you a quote about this whole Caleb thing? Nothing being done to him now is something that hasn't been done to him before. He reminds himself of this again and again. It makes me so incredibly sad that no one in Jude's life helps him to stand up for himself and helps him to not repeat the mistakes he has made, or not the mistakes he has made, but the horrible things he had to go through. Because no, he didn't make any mistakes. Like, that was completely wrong of me to say. Like, honestly, he did not make any mistakes. It was never his fault what has happened to him. He always gives himself the fault. Like, he says everything is his fault, and he always searches for fault in himself. And when other people are horrible, he thinks, yeah, it's his fault that they are horrible. It makes me so incredibly sad to read all of this, but it's also like so in many ways understandable to me, because like, of course, if you're gonna go through something traumatic like Jude did, of course you're gonna have a completely wrong image of yourself. That is pretty clear to me why that is. And I also can find a lot of wrong thinking in myself. I'm just stuck in thought so much because of it. I'm just thinking about life so much and myself, but it's also like potential for growth, if you know what I mean. Like, sometimes you just have to work through really hard things to get to the other side and understand yourself better, and then be able to move on from that. So that's what this book does to me right now. And I'm very grateful. Like, I'm so grateful to be reading this right now. Later on, I listened to some more to the audiobook while playing my current favorite game called Hoko Life. If you're a cozy gamer yourself and love Animal Crossing, I think you should definitely check this one out. And yeah, the book got tougher and tougher. My heart broke many times for Jude. Here you can see me listening to Jude's backstory, and I think my expressions show pretty well what I was feeling. So I only have about 200 pages left of A Little Life, and there was a lot happening over the last like 100, 200 pages. Even though the stuff has been super tough to read, I haven't really actually cried, which is kind of weird for me, because like, if I'm really attached to characters and if something bad happens to them, I tend to cry, but for some reason I just don't with this book. The things that happen to him are so insane and so wild. It's really hard for me to process, and it's really hard for me in that moment to like really get a grasp of it. It shocked me in the moment, like everything I've read shocked me in the moment, but it just didn't make me cry. But like, even though this book is really tough to read, and even though this book has a lot of really tough subjects, I'm really enjoying it. And it's probably especially because it talks about such tough subjects, such an honest and raw story. It just does something with you, you know? With this book, like, you never know what's coming and you never know when it's gonna end, because like, I always thought, okay, like, now has been enough bad things happening and then something else came and something else was even worse. I'm so ready to be done with this book, even though I'm probably really going to miss it, because like, this book has really been an experience. I really have no energy left and no words left, and yeah, I'm gonna read the last 80 pages now and then probably process them and process this whole book. finished A Little Life. 800 pages, 814 pages, I think. Wow, it's honestly the longest book I've ever read. On the one hand, it was everything, and on the other hand, it really tore me apart. It was so tough to read at times. It was honestly like such an emotional story, such a traumatizing story, just as everyone says. To me, it was really relatable, like I said many times, and I feel like Jude was such an interesting character. Like all of the characters were so vivid, and you really gotta look into their heads and you really got to know them on such a deep level, and like getting to live with them all throughout their lives, throughout like 40-50 years. There's so much I still need to think about, there's so much I still need to process with this book, but it has really moved me in such a unique way and has done something to me that no book has ever done. I really feel like I've grown from this book and have changed in some way, and I've always felt this way, that people always have a reason for why they are the way they are, and this book portrayed this so well. It has sparked so many feelings in me. I'll probably be thinking about this book forever, and maybe I'll reread it at some point, because I think like knowing what will happen doesn't make it as hard. Of course, it's gonna make it hard to read it again, but this is honestly a once-in-a-lifetime experience and an absolutely phenomenal book that will break your heart, that will mend your heart, that will stay with you forever. But honestly, if you're someone who's easily triggered, if you're someone who's not in the best mental state, if you're someone who can't deal with super graphic descriptions or like a super traumatizing childhood, then don't read this book. If you really think like you can deal with all of that and you can process it and you're able to read about those topics, definitely still check the trigger warnings before. I really feel like it has changed my life, even if that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Definitely a 5 out of 5 star read, 100%. And the only thing that bothered me a little bit throughout the story, but it was also like kind of like a style of writing, I think, because every time like some kind of plot twist or something shocking happened, we skipped ahead right after for a few months or a few years even sometimes, and we instantly got to know how it all resolved in a way. And I felt like sometimes that took kind of the tension off, and I would have liked it, maybe I would have cried even a little bit more if the writing style wasn't in that way. Besides that, absolutely heartbreaking and absolutely breathtaking and everything, and I really feel like there were a lot of horrible things in this book, but I also feel like there were so many wonderful and beautiful things in this book, and it really showed that a life is not only trauma, that a life is not only horrible things. No matter how bad, no matter how horrible it is, you still have those moments of light, you still have those wonderful days and those wonderful connections, and it's exactly my kind of message. Because yeah, no matter how many hardships you have in your life, there are always the small things and always those people who are there for you. And throughout reading this book, I've become more and more grateful for my own life, which is literally amazing for me, because I really struggle with depressive episodes. And lately I've been in a really bad one. I just wasn't able to see the light in the world anymore. And because of this book, I was able to see it again, and I was able to see like how much I have. This book really changed my life, at least for now. And I think that's all for this reading vlog. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. If you did, it would mean so much if you liked this video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, maybe you can tell that I'm super emotional right now, so I'm gonna take a breather now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!